Hey, welcome to Beyond the Sermon. It's a time when we get together and look at yesterday's message and dive a little bit deeper with one of our teaching pastors. Today I have with me Joel Ramos. He is the teaching pastor at our Spanish community, but he is bilingual and speaks great English, and he fills in for all of us. And so yesterday we looked at being obedient to God, that we can have confidence in obeying God no matter what he asks.
That's right.
And as we were working through this message, we said, sometimes it's going to bring pain to be, obedient to God, but we should do that. But then you brought up something, sometimes it just doesn't make sense.
No, obeying him, being confident in who he is and how much he loves you, enough to obey him even when it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, let's talk about one of those times it didn't make sense.
Well, there's a story in the book of Genesis, chapter 22, about Abraham.
Yeah.
And God had made him a promise years and years prior that out of him he would make a great nation. He says, Abraham, come and follow me. I'm going to take you to a new place. I'm going to make a nation out of you. And years went by, and Abraham had no children. And he's 100 years old now, and his wife is 90 years old. She's barren. Her womb is as good as dead. And miraculously, because God never fails, Isaac is born. And so out of a dead womb comes life. And so, we get to this point in the story now in chapter 22 where God is asking Abraham to sacrifice his one and only son, to give him to the Lord. And I can imagine all the things that were going through his mind. Well, this doesn't make any sense. You pulled me out of where I lived. You told me to leave my family and my friends behind. You brought me to a new place. And I know I haven't been doing the best job, through some of the things that I've had to go through. But now you're asking me for the son that you promised to me that you're going to bless many nations through.
Yeah, now go sacrifice that son on Mount Moriah.
Yeah.
You know what the amazing thing is not, first of all, it's amazing that God would ask such a thing.
Yeah.
And we understand, we'll talk about that in a second. But to me, what's most amazing is that Abraham would do such a thing, right?
Yeah.
He brings Isaac up on the mountain. He's going to sacrifice Isaac and follow through.
Yeah.
And we find out in the book of Hebrews that Abraham said, that Abraham by faith was going to do that because he knew that God had this promise. And he was so confident in God's promise that he thought, even if I slay my son, God will bring him back.
He's going to bring him back. Abraham was confident because he knew that physically he was dead. He knew that physically his wife was dead. And still, out of that death, God brought life.
Yeah.
And so when God asks Abraham, give me that boy, Abraham says, okay, I know we've been through something like this before. And he was able to look back. And family, that's what faith is. It's our understanding to look back at what God has already done and have the confidence that he's going to do it again.
And trust him for the future.
That's right.
Absolutely. And so why did God do that? Well, it was a prelude to the cross. That God would give his only son on the cross for us. And by the way, he went through it, right?
He went through it.
And so, yes, our lesson is to be obedient to God, even when it doesn't make sense, because we can be confident that God has a plan and a purpose behind everything he asks us to do.
And the key to it is obedience.
Amen. Hey, thank you for joining us today. Hope if you haven't seen the message, you can watch it on our website on demand, and hope to see you this next week as we continue our sermon series walking through the book of 1 John called Confidence.